this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. I've just been to visit a place that I haven't been to for about 30 years, and I just accidentally came across it. Effectively, it's just up the road, and I have just had the most delicious chocolate and dark cherry cake with cream and a nice cup of coffee. Not that that's part of this, but a long time ago, it is a long time ago as well, I belonged to a bonsai society, and in my bonsai days there were only 3 people that I ever took any notice of, and that was Manuel and Italo. What a pair. One Italian, one Spanish, and always sarcasm across the board. You know, if they were working on a tree together, you know, one of them would say, "Oh, can I just borrow your so-and-so?" And he says, "Oh, he always borrow mine, he's no good." And sniping at each other with a big smile, don't get me wrong. Entertainment, basically. And the other one was Malcolm, the guy who was chairman at the time. And those 3 people taught me what I needed to know. Some information came from books, but there's, like most of you will know with orchids, there's no substitute for the real thing. And people who do it for real, rather than write about it 50 years ago. Although with bonsai, the techniques are, you know, they're hundreds and hundreds of years old. They don't change much. Media has changed possibly a bit, same as with orchids. But Manuel is the guy I bought my Dishojo maple from, because he just suddenly died. The whole society collapsed after that, quite honestly. Italo, his sort of lifelong friend, was just a shadow of himself after that, and Manuel was the life and soul of the society. And he used to cycle to work. He was a heavy smoker, mind. He used to cycle to work, and he got to work one day, leant on the table and said, "I don't feel well," and collapsed and died. He was only 40 something, but it took the life out of that society. Anyway, he had this theory that he could turn anything into a bonsai in a short space of time, like half an hour, something like that. And he used to demonstrate it frequently. People used to bring along awkward things for him to have a go at. And that's what we're going to try and do today. So I'm going to try and remember how much I learnt. And what we're going to do is turn a bush into a bonsai. This place I've just been to is a tree and plants nursery, and it's probably got the most extensive list of trees you could imagine. It's huge, and in amongst that list of trees were 2 conifers that I would have gladly paid reasonable money for, and that was a Japanese white pine and a Japanese black pine. And when I got there, they had no pines. They don't keep their list up to date, so I was a little disappointed. I had to look round to try and find something to come away with, and I came away with a little bush. Something I've never heard of, but we will do something with it, we hope. This is a Picea glauca variety Albertiana conica, slow growing, narrowly conical conifer. Well, what it looks like as a mature tree is irrelevant when you're doing a bonsai. You make it the shape you want. Fully hardy, glaucous bright green foliage, growth rate 2 to 3 feet in 10 years. That's pretty slow. So this plant could already be a few years old, who knows. So first thing we do is get it out of the pot. I'll show you why I chose this one when we get it out of the pot. Now this should just lift out. It'll have far too much media around it, but hopefully it'll have an extensive root system to start off with. Right, well, we've got roots to the edge of the pot, which is good. It's damp, and I don't know what the media is, but it's been topped with bark by the looks of it. And the first thing to do is break away the surface around the trunk, because with nursery grown stock you often find there's another inch or 2 of trunk below the ground, which I'm hoping there isn't. There's a good reason for that when we get in there. So basically we've taken the surface off. Yeah, I can I can work with that because the amount that's under the ground can stay under the ground. It's used to it. So we will, I haven't got my root hook, so we're going to be just getting, I mean basically the bottom of the pots, the bottom of the root stock has got to come off anyway. And when it just falls away like that, you know that there wasn't much in there that was attached to the tree. Yeah? And then just tease away at the base of it. The idea being, I've got to make this shallow. Oh, there's somebody round here that seems to do everything with a noisy tool. And every time the sun comes out, they're doing something. You know, you sort of think, how many hedges have you got? But it can be annoying when it's such a quiet area, if you know what I mean. Oh, I've got some good roots here. This is good. Should get it off to a good start. Now, the next thing I will say is that if I wanted to grow this tree on vigorously, then I'd probably be removing a few too many roots here, but I don't. I want this plant to have an average growth. So I need to get it so that it will fit in a small bonsai pot and we can start growing it on as a bonsai. So the first thing to do is to get the bit that's going in the pot sorted. I'm not going to take it all off, I don't want to disturb all the roots, but I would like some of these tangled ones to fan outwards. If you do this properly, at some point when you repot a bonsai, you should take all the media off and comb the roots outwards in a radial fashion, and anything that doesn't want to comply, you cut it off so that all the roots come out from the base, and they will eventually become what is that nice base that you get on a decent bonsai. Right, that's about all I'm going to take off. So like with orchids, the centre hasn't got many roots in, but there's more than enough roots to get this going now. But the next thing I'm just going to do is trim the long dangly ones off because I don't want them. There's feeder roots in there, which is good, and a lot of those haven't been disturbed. So we're just going to trim that flat now. Right, now before putting this in a pot, I've got to decide what I'm going to keep. Let me just get my hand towel. Oops, trip over. I always said those wires down there were going to be dangerous. It's because I've moved the fan away. Right, so the next thing I've got to do is decide what I want. Now, if I can get this in closer, there's the reason I chose that. It's a triple trunk. Very rare in conifers. This little branch here is coming off, that's sacrificed. And my plan for this is to tip it over sideways so that the main trunk comes out at an angle. We'll put some shape into that with some wire, and then we'll separate the other two, get them farther apart, preferably without tearing them off. So the next thing to do is remove what I definitely don't want. You definitely don't want that lower branch, so that's gone. Now, looking at what will be this trunk here, we definitely don't want anything that will be sticking up once I get the shape. So that comes off. Anything else sticking up there? So see, I've now got a branch there that I can work with. Yeah? Then we look to the next branch, and that's got quite a few things on it, but there are some sticky up bits. We don't need that. We don't need that. And we don't need that. Any branches that come out, or needles that come out type to the trunk that are not wanted, come off right back to the trunk. I don't want needles against the trunk. So that one's got to come off. Less is more. That can come off for now. I'm not going to do too much with what will become the other branches, because until I get them wired into position, I don't really know what I'm going to keep, if you see what I mean. Now, what we've got here is two branches. coming out from the same place. Well, this is the bottom of the tree. We don't want little wispy branches, do we? We want nice big thick ones. And then we've got a branch that goes out to the rear here. Yeah? So now we've got to decide, are we going to go for a triple trunk face on, in which case that's a back branch, or are we going to twist it slightly and bring this branch round here into play, make it part of the design, in which case these will need to come forward a bit, or one of them at least will. So I'm going to keep that, in which case I will also keep that. So if we're keeping that, what we don't want is sticky up branches, so you can come off. And if we're keeping that, the same applies, no sticking up stuff. So gradually, as I'm doing this, the shape of the tree will become more apparent. Too much. Right. Now's the bit where it starts getting complicated. What are we going to do here? Now, if this is going to be the main trunk, I want some shape in that. So are we going to choose that bit or that bit? Because I can't keep both. One of these has got to go. And it will probably be chosen by where the branches are and how good they are. You've also got to bear in mind, if this is the front of the tree, if I take this one off, I'll have a large scar there. If I take the back one off, yes, I'll have a scar, but it'll be round the back of the tree. So I'm going to keep the front one, so the back one's got to come off. And that would be my trunk pruner, if I hadn't lost my tools. But like I said, I have got secateurs. We have got something that we can manage with. This is the problem. Without the bonsai tools, I can't clean that scar up very well, which I would be able to do with my knob cutter. But we'll see. Either these tools are going to turn up or they're not. And if they don't, then... Right, so now coming up here, this is our first branch. Yeah, so that will be pulled over here. Then we need... I don't want a large branch coming out over the top of that one, so that one's going to go. Shall we keep one pointing forward? I think we should. So we'll take that one off and keep the one that's got the growing tip on it. Now we've got a cluster. Now I will put shape into this bit, so at some point we've got to decide where is the top of the tree. Manuel always used to go, where's the top of your tree? Where's the top of your tree? And Italo would go, well, you're not going to find out, are you? You're hopeless. They was always going at each other. But what we're after is taper. So the ideal set of circumstances now would be to choose one of these smaller branches that becomes the top of the tree. And the main trunk comes off at that point. So if we take that off now, we can then see which is the best one. Because only one of these can stay as the top of the tree, and it would be better if it was one at the front. So it's going to have to be that one. So we need a bit more of that off. There. Drastic, you might think. So this is going to be the top of the tree now, and if that's the top of the tree, what we've got here is a long bit with no branches that hopefully we will be able to get something to shoot out of there. Because it's still got needles on, it's possible it can produce a bud. It might not. But if it doesn't, we've got to choose what to do at the top now. There's far too many branches. Right, again, I'm looking at the front of the tree. This branch will come round. That one will fill the gap. That one will come round. This one will go on up. And if that one's going to go on up at what angle? Yeah, I think that is going to go up at a slight angle that way, so it's then going to bend that way. So we then need it to come back on itself. So we need a branch on the right hand side. So we'll get rid of that one. So that's facing forward. I'll leave the one pointing backwards for now. That's going to be our new leader. I'm the leader. Yeah, what film's that from? I'm the leader. I say when we go. We go. You never get that one. Right, that'll do for now. That's a basic outline, and already you should be able to see that what was a bush now looks more like a tree. Yeah? Right, so now I need to go and get some media, a little pot and some wire, and we will continue from there. It's over half the tree gone here, including an awful, big branch there. That's how it's done. Less is more. I'll be back. Okay, this is what I'm going to be working with. I found a little plastic training pot, which is too big for that really, for the look, but it'll allow the roots to expand and keep the vigour going in the tree while it gets itself sorted out. Now, under normal circumstances, a little piece of gauze would go over there and it will be wired in place. But although I found some gauze, quite honestly I can't be bothered to wire it in place. I'm just going to place it. It's not going to move, he says confidently. But that's to stop two things: to stop the media coming out the bottom and to stop the slugs and other nasties getting in. Doesn't work, but so those will go there. And then the thing that is always forgotten when you do bonsai is, like when I'm doing the orchids and I'm putting a cattleya in the holy clay pot, the wires go in first. So let's get that done before we forget. All I've got to do is find an end. It's always difficult on the thin wire where the end is. There we go. Right, so I'll need, let's have a look, how's this going to end up? It's going to go like that, so I'm going to need two. So, always end up with far too much. Better too much and cut a bit off than not enough and it don't work. And then he cleverly cuts cuts it so that I can't find the end again. Oh, we're starting off well here. There we go. Right. Two bits of that. That's to hold it in the pot. Let's get that out of the way. Now this one has got, this is unusual, for a training pot, this has got everything you could want. If this was a proper bonsai pot, it wouldn't have these facilities. And the facilities I'm on about are these tiny little holes here for putting your wire in, as well as 4 drainage holes in a small pot like that. If this was a bonsai pot, you'd probably have 1 drainage hole in the middle and that would be your lot. You have to work with it. But as this is a plastic pot, they tend to be a lot more thought out. Well, it's just a mould, isn't it, in plastic, so easy to work with. Right, 1. Where'd my other bit go? Yes, it is. 2. This is the fiddly bit, quite honestly, the potting. Some people say it's the trimming. I don't find that fiddly, personally. I'm a bit ball by the horns with the trimming. I thought I just go for it. I always sort of look along the lines. If you cut a bit off by mistake, chances are you can grow something else where it was. And sometimes you can't, and you've messed the whole layout of the tree up. So you do need to go careful when you're hacking. But in the early stages like this, you're making major decisions for the future. Right, now what have I got here? That is a bonsai type media that is specifically for conifers, yeah, for pines and things like that. They love it. But I'm going to use that as the top dressing. This is potting compost with some of this mixed in, and this is the new stuff I haven't tried before, and this is a mix specifically bought for bonsai, and it came in a bag like that from eBay. So granular material, it says. It's a mix of various things, including akadama, which is the very hard red clay, baked clay, but it's irregular. Some akadama comes in little tiny round bits, which is great because there's always spaces for the roots and the air, and that's lovely, and it dries in about 10 minutes. Yeah. Right, so what we've got to do now is gently layer this on so that those little bits of gauze don't move. And once this is in place, then they won't move. So this is the drainage. Yeah, this won't break down and compact. It's rock hard, this stuff. So that's the drainage layer. The next thing we want is, because, like in an orchid, the centre, directly under the middle of the plant, very rarely has any roots of any worthwhile. So with a bonsai, you take that into account and make a little mound in the middle to go up under the middle of the tree where there won't be many roots, and that stops it getting waterlogged in the centre. So you make a little mountain in the middle. Then, whoops, you catch your shirt sleeve in the wire and knock everything out of place. You then try the height. Bearing in mind you're going to pull on this with the wire, and it's going to be top dressed. So that's good enough. Yeah, it'll be slightly raised and it'll have a dip round the edge once I've pressed it all in. Right, now what we've got over here is my medium. This is potting compost, so it's fibrous. This is John Innings number 2. John Innes number 2, dirt. Dirt with some bits in. And this is grit, horticultural grit. And I'm going to mix the dirt in with that. That'll give it a bit of substance. The red bits in there are some of this. They can go in there. Yeah, it all helps with drainage. And then we put the grit in. And this is the important bit. All 3 of those people I've mentioned said this, and they meant it, that this was the serious bit, is that when you've mixed your medium and you think you've got it right, pick it up and listen to it. And you should be able to hear it. You should be able to drop it all in your water as well. You should be able to hear it. If you can't hear it, it's not gritty enough. I'm just going to use up these little bits here. And the other thing I've found from experience, long time ago, obviously I haven't done this for ages, is what looks like far too much very rarely is. You end up not having enough. Right, so we want a little bit of this on top of here. Yeah, not a lot, just some. Because this is what the roots are now going to touch. But I don't want to put too much in because I'll alter the height of the plant in the pot. Right, and then we've got to decide exactly where the front of the tree is. And I like that like that. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Then we get a vital piece of equipment. Why do we want that? Something to point forward, don't I? So about there. We can work away from the front. Yep, that will do nicely. And then what we do is we side fill. This is where the turntable comes in handy. I'm right-handed, and I would now just whiz that round on the turntable, which we've lost. And then we start poking down. Now initially I can do this with my finger. Now, if I'd taken a lot more of the media off and I could see a lot more of the fine roots, that's when you use this to make sure it goes right down in all the gaps. Unlike orchids, you do not want any gaps. Now, remember what I just said about always looking as though you've got far too much? Well, how much have we got left over now? And what you want is firmness without turning it into concrete. Especially around the edges. The roots will head away from the tree. Some will try and go down, but most of them will head out in a radial fashion away from the centre of the tree, which is what you want. And that will help pull the trunk out and flare it at the base, long term, not short term. Right, it's plenty firm enough. Now what we do is we cross wire. So although that looked as though they were going to go like that, they're not, they're going to go across. And I haven't got my pliers. I'll be back. And these are not my normal pliers. I can't find my normal ones. They're around, they're not lost. I've had them in the not too distant past. Now you pull this reasonably tight, yeah, and twist. Just a couple of turns, like that. Then cut it off. And the reason you cut it off now, these need sharpening, is so that you can get the pliers over the end of it and pull it tight. So you pull and twist. The idea is it will pull down on the tree. I can do that. Oh, no, I was going to say I can do that with my fingers, but no, I can't. Until it bites. Don't go too mad or you will break the wire at the base, and then that piece of wire is useless and you'll probably have to take the plant out of the pot and start again. So go steady. Trim that off and get rid of it. Down there. That's one. Then we come across the other side. Do the same thing. Pull it reasonably tight and twist. Do you know, I think they're just a couple of big kids out there going brum 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 brum. You know, like the youngsters do on a motorbike. Mem 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 mem. Pointless. Totally pointless. Apart from the fact it's annoying. And that's probably why they do it. It attracts attention. Look at me, I can make lots of noise. Yeah, look at me, I can be quiet. So I can do something you can't. Anyone can make a noise. You want to test yourself? Walk in the forest where there's deer and see how close you can get before they bolt. Less than 10 metres. Right, so that's got the tree firmly in place. We've pushed everything down. We've got everything nice and firm. Now under normal circumstances I would now top dress it. But I haven't finished wiring and messing with the tree yet, which means turning it and pushing it around. So if I put the top dressing on now, it will fall off. So what we've got to do now is shape. So we're going to need some wire. Now I've got various thicknesses of wire, and some people start at the top, some people start at the bottom. I'm one of those who likes to get the base of the tree laid out first, and the top sort of follows on. If you do the top first, my mind won't work like that, so I do the bottom bits first. And the first branch is going to have to be wired quite hard, so that's going to need some quite thick wire. I'll go with, that's too thin, that's probably a bit too thick. So I think that will probably do it, and if it doesn't work, go back and put another piece on and double it, then it will work. I don't need much, but one thing that Peter Chan always says when you're wiring, always trying to do 2 branches with 1 piece. Yeah? Because the anchor is the start point. You haven't got a loose end, you've got a loop. So what we're going to do is we're going to put that round the trunk, and then we're going to go round the first branch, like so. And I'm going to do this quite tight because this is initial wiring. You have to bear in mind it's a conifer, and so one day it will have nice gnarly bark. Not yet, but one day. And a few marks from the wire, from this initial wiring, will not be a big deal. So I'll stop there, that's the first one, and then I'm going to go round the trunk and onto the second branch. So my wire's now firmly held, and we'll go round that one, over the top. Some people go under first, some people go over. I usually go over. Again, it's how your mind works, it's how you see things. And I like to go over and then round. There's a lot of judgment goes into the length of the wire and a lot of worry. Like, oh, am I going to run out before I finish the bit that I'm doing? Or just start another piece. There is an art to wiring, show quality wiring. In other words, you're going to show the plant with the wire on, and that gets technical and is quite difficult to achieve and make it look pretty and sort of right. I don't ever attempt to do that. Right, now the centre of that branch is there, so I'll take that piece there and hold. So that's those two pieces, that's their basic piece of wire done. Now we've got this back branch to do and the main trunk. And again, we're looking at much thicker, heavier branches now, so that wire won't be heavy enough. We need to go to something a bit heavier. There's another one of those pieces with no end. There it is, it's hiding. So we need enough to go up there and enough to go up virtually the whole length of the trunk. I always go with that if you want to measure your wires, because it can get expensive without being wasteful, put the wire alongside it where you want to go and double it, because remember it's got to go round in a coil and you won't be far off. It's not an exact science, but something like that. Right, so we need to go round our trunk for our anchor, and we don't need much going off to the right. Now this time I'll be going under first. There's reason, because this one has got to go over to go up the trunk. And I want to get this started before I do my side branch. Now these loops have got to be quite tight on the trunk because it's quite thick and it's got to be able to bend and hold. So that's that out of the way, and then we can come round our side branch. Now I've got too many branches coming out here. This is where I start thinking, why am I wiring this branch when I don't want it? So that little cluster there is coming off. These bulgy bits and scars will be tidied up when I either find my bonsai tools or I buy some more. I haven't decided yet. I'm going to give Hannah a chance. She's coming down. She might remember what happened to them. And the first thing she might say is, yeah, don't you remember they got thrown away before we had a chance to clear the house out? But she'll probably remember. She might not. Problem being is if they were already gone before we cleared the house out, she wouldn't have seen them, would she? So she wouldn't know one way or the other. Right, so that's that one. Now let's get up the rest of our trunk. All these needles need to come off really, but I want to leave them in case I get some back buds up that bare bit of trunk, which does look a bit straight and narrow at the moment. It won't do when I've finished. Right, so that's a basic wire at the start. Right, this branch here is coming round, so we bend it round. Bit at a time, don't go mad or you'll snap it. And I want that to come round and quite low down. Then I want it to go slightly back and start to come up. So that's that initial shape there. I could go a bit lower. That's not bad. That's not bad. Right, so now we come round to this side and we need, this branch needs to come forward. So we'll bring that round. Don't worry, you'll see this in a minute. It's difficult to see it while I'm doing it, if you see what I mean. Now, where do I want to go next? If that's going to be the main lead, so we'll start thinning, and we don't want that. We've got too many branches coming out of the same place there. They need to be thinner. So it's no good having a branch coming off a branch and the branch coming off is thicker than the one it comes off of. It just looks wrong. That's not how trees grow. So we've got two thin side branches here and a thick one. So the thick one comes off. Trying to cut the wire with a pair of scissors here. Now I can see what I'm doing. Now the wire can come on, carry on up this piece. And then we get to the cluster, the end of the branch. Now what do? What we want to do here is stop the branch growing and make it go out sideways. And to stop it growing, you take the end out. So what's the end when you've got 5 branches all coming out the same place? Well, that one's got the most growth on it, so that's the one that's going to be the most vigorous. I'm going to leave 3. So that we've got a nice end to that branch. And that one's too close, so we'll take that one off. Let's get all these bits out of the way. And then we've got to stop and think. We're getting now to the detail. This branch has got 3 buds. Well, the first thing you do is take the centre one out. It'll be easier to cut than it will pull. Sometimes it's easier to pull and take the centre one out. It will now go sideways in 2 directions. This one's got 3 buds, we only want 2, so we take the centre one out. This one hasn't got any, hopefully it will gain some. Now we look at the bit below, are we going to keep it? So that's no. No, too much. Off you come, this is more. So that's that one. Now we've got the next one up. Now this first branch here goes off and splits into many. Yeah? Well, many's no good, but what we have got is a nice side shoot there heading in the right direction. So we'll take the lead out and that will push the side growth. We've got something in there that we don't want, too near the trunk. Now we've got too many branches again. What are we going to do? Well, this branch crosses over that one. So which do we keep? To make this a nice pad, I'm going to take that one off because it's got nice little shoots here, and this one crosses over. So that one comes off. Now that gets rid of the crossing branches. And now we've got too many here. What's the best lead there? Centre one out. Same logic. Centre one out. Then we come to here, and this little branch has got buds. I want both of those out, leaving 2. Don't be scissors, Roger. I used to be able to pinch them when I had nails. There we go. So that leaves 2. And the little side branch that hopefully will give it some strength and hopefully it will bud back. Now what do we do with this lot? Well, first of all we've got a downward pointing one. That just comes off, no contest. Now we've got a branch with one sticking up. Well, sticking up is a no-go. Now what have we got? 2 buds there, they can stay. 3 buds here. 4 buds there. We need to take that down to 2. There we go. That's not bad. Right, so main branches then. That one needs to come down a bit lower and forward a bit. That one can now come down, and I'll leave that one for a minute because I need to do the trunk. Now the trunk needs to come forward first, like that, then go round and back, and then come back towards the vertical. How's that? That'll do nicely. The only problem we've got there now is one of the branches I left on the trunk is now on an inside bend, and that's a no-no. So that'll have to come off. Don't have branches pointing inwards, and that leaves the little one on the outside of the bend that will push on. Right, top. We've already chosen our top, But what we can't do is wire it with this stuff. It's far too vigorous. It's too thick. It'll end up breaking the branch. So we'll just trim that top a bit more, make it a bit tidier. That's going to be our new apex with a smaller piece of wire, which means we'll keep that one. Do you know, for now I'm going to keep them all, and that way I can choose based on which one is vigorous and which one isn't out of the 4, because I can't have 4. 3's okay, 2's okay, possibly, but 4 isn't. Again, we've got 4 buds there, we'll take that back to 2. Most of the time when I'm taking these back to 2, I'm taking the most vigorous bud out, and that will force the tree to push all its energy into the other 2 that would have extended the branch through that lead bud, which it now can't do because it's been removed. So the energy will go into the sides. We've got 3 there, a little bit weak there on that branch, but there we go. Right, so we now need to cut a giant piece of wire because we can't extend up with that. Take that back on itself so that we don't have a sharp end. That's that one. This one, however, can go a bit further up the lead branch. I don't need to go right to the end on this, I just need to go to there. So that'll do. Sharp it off. That one, and then the bottom one naturally lends itself to tucking underneath the branch. Out of sight. We like that. They don't always end up in the... You can't necessarily predict where the end of the wire will be when you start twisting at the start of the branch, if you see what I mean. But it's nice when it ends up underneath the branch like that. Right, this side we can go up there a little bit more, but not a lot because the branch is quite thin and the wire is incredibly thick. So I'm going to take that to there and stop. It's warm in here. Which is good. I've upped the thermostat during the day now so that we've got a better temperature in here. Hurricane Hector's turned off at the moment, but with the extra humidity that humidifier is providing, I'm happier to bump the temperature up a bit. And that way I can keep the door shut. Oh, come on you, bend. That is thick, that stuff. There we go. Right, so far it's already looking like a tree, isn't it? But we're not done yet. We're not done yet. Because basically this side branch has not been got at. So what do we do here then? This is going to be the whole of the left hand side of the tree is based on this particular branch here. And we've got a sticking up one, so that's the first one that comes off. Good chap. And then what have we got here? We've got a nice side branch coming off, 2 nice side branches. They need a bit of wire, as does this one. That's got a side shoot and a centre bud that needs coming out. Gotcha. And then over here we have a cluster. So we've got one sticking up, and that'll have to go. And we've got a cluster of buds. Actually, I'm going to take that end out and just keep the 2 side shoots. Should I do that there as well? Yeah. Let's push it sideways. What about this one? Haven't really got the side growth there, have we? We have actually. Let's come back on that one too. There we go. And that one. Right, now we need some thin wire for little tiny branches. And these are tiny branches, so this is my thinnest wire. And all this does is just point them in the right direction, really. That's all I'm doing. So get a decent bit out so that I don't keep losing the end. Right, we need 2 there, so about that much. And always conceptually try and think of the fact that you're going to do 2 branches with each piece of wire. Now, because that big thick bit goes along the top of the branch, I'm going to go underneath the branch this time and bring that wire up like that. And then we'll go around there. Only need to go a little bit to start, and then I'm going to come over to this one and go around there. As I say, this is to guide the branches away from the main branch and just point them in the right direction. I'm not trying to train them completely yet, I just want them to point in the right direction. You know, this one sticks up a little bit, so this wire will enable me to bend it downwards and put a shape in it, put an S in it, because it's long and thin. So we put the wire on and then we shape it. So we want to go down, out and back in, like so. Because remember, we're trying to form a pad, yeah? So that's that one. Let's go down a bit lower. There we go. That's okay as is. And this little one here, I'm going to bring down a little bit. That will do with those little ones. Right, you can come off. And you can come off. That's that one. Now, I'd like to put a little tiny bit of shape on that one, so unfortunately that does mean we'll have a single piece of wire, but it's just a very straight branch. I just want to put a curve on it. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to follow the thick wire with the thin wire. So I'm going to go around the outside of it like that, follow it round under, and then come up over. And then I've got my grip. And the fact that it's only thin wire, it doesn't need much of a grip to keep it in place, quite honestly. I just put enough on there to be able to give it a little bit of shape. That's all that's for. That little branch some character. That's that one done. Right, it's this little branch here we haven't done yet. This is off the main trunk, this one. Now that extends to 4 branches at the end. We can't have 4. But what we can have, I don't want this branch to be long, so what we need is sideways growth. So we'll take both of the centre shoots out completely. And then have we got 3 buds anyway? We've got 2 there, we've got 2 there. And we've got a side shoot and a potential bud. Right, so we need a little bit of wire for that one, because he's sticking upright and you don't want that. You want that one to come forward and down. Excuse me. So I'll cut a reasonably long bit because I'm going to have to go around the trunk again to get a base for this little piece of wire. So again, I'm going to go round under the big thick stuff and then come up over the top like so. That should be okay. As I say, these little thin bits of wire like this, it doesn't need much of an anchor. It's not like you're trying to bend the whole trunk over. When you're doing this, one thing you really do need to watch is buds, because you may have your only side bud on a branch, and the last thing you want to do is knock it off with a piece of wire and ruin the chance of getting a branch at that position. It's horrible when you do that. It's like knocking the spike off your orchid. I mean, I've done it many times. I'm going to take that up round that last little bit there just so that I can put a bit of shape on that. Right, that's that one. Right, now you have got to go down before you come round you'll have to go round a bit now. You, I'm going to go back to that little bud cluster. It's too long. And that side shoot is crossing, so you can come off right. So I'm fine tuning now. As an initial styling, I'm happy with that. Now the trouble is, can I show you that? I'm going to take the camera off so that I can hold the camera and hold the bonsai, then I can turn both so that you can see what I've done. First of all, we haven't got a bush anymore, have we? We've got a little tree. Yeah? We've got some shape to the main trunk. We've got a branch coming off to the right on that bend. That will be developed. We've got a head, which I'm leaving at the moment to pull the sap. But I think I'm going to take a couple of those branches off. Oh, I've still got to wire the lead, haven't I? We better do that. And then off to the left, we've got our second branch. Off to the right we've got our first branch, which I've taken round and down, and then we've got a back branch that I've pushed into the gap. So that goes between the first branch and the trunk. Yeah? And then what is effectively the real second branch sticks out to the left, and then we've got our third branch coming towards us. Our fourth branch is nothing more than a twig. It will become a branch one day. So I'm happy with that for an initial styling. Apart from the fact we've got too many. So that's going to be our new trunk. I'm going to have to wire that in. So I'll put the camera back on and just do that top bit. Hopefully that'll go back where it was and you can still see. Screen's round the wrong way. There's that, somewhere near it. Right, yes, I just need, for the trunk to continue up off of that S-bend, the branch that I've chosen needs to be pointing upwards, and it will eventually grow into that scar and become the new trunk. And then we'll keep that one, and I'm going to keep the lower of those two, not the top one, because it's too thick, so we'll get rid of that one. And I'm going to leave those four because I don't want to choose yet. So all I need to do is, where's my thin stuff, is just get a little bit of wire on that lead so that it grows as an extension of the trunk. And although it looks a bit blunt at the moment, it will grow in. And as the energy goes into that little shoot at the top, it will fatten up. And as it fattens up, it will meet the trunk. And the scar is on the back, so we shouldn't be looking at that. That are the theory. I'm a bit careful now because I'm working with very thin material. You go too mad, you just break it. But I do need enough twists on this to get some shape into it. Don't want it dead straight. And to get it in the right position to follow on from the trunk. So, come round there, become the extension to the trunk. Come over there and then head backwards. Right, get the camera off. Final look this time. I'm not doing any more now. As an initial styling, I've probably already done a lot more than some people would do. So if you follow the trunk now, you've got this, needs a little bit of a kink in it. Just a little one like that. That's better. Just to get some shape, and then this will become the extension to the trunk at the top. Yeah? And the first thing it will do is branch. and then we will choose one or two of these once they develop. Given that that branch comes off of there, the chances are it will be this one and this one. Possibly a back branch to give me some depth, but that's a wait and see. Right, so all that's left to do, oh, so I won't be able to do that and hold the camera. Back on your post. I managed to press a button manhandling the camera then. I don't know where that cut off, or if it cut off, I don't know. But all I'm going to do now is top dress the pot. And you can see why I didn't really want to do this at the beginning, because it would have all fallen off. And what I do with the top dressing is I gently press it into the sides. Otherwise when you water it all comes off. So I push it down like that, so that I've got a little ridge, a little rim still there. And have we got enough? That's the question. Just about. Just about. So there we go, from a bush to a tree. A bit more than half an hour, but then I was talking all the way through it, wasn't I? And now we can watch that one grow and mature. One day that will be 2 foot tall instead of 7 inches. Yeah? About 10 years time. It is a slow grower at the best of times. But once you channel growth on a slow growing conifer, you can actually get them to grow a bit quicker, because they've got so much energy from their root base that they push that energy into whatever's left. And I've cut 2/3 of the tree off, so all that energy's only got these bits to go into, so hopefully they will push on nicely now. So there we go, and that is Piccia or Piscia. Well, that's easier if you read it, I suppose. Yeah, so that's what we've got. I'll have to keep this as well because I'll never remember that. And there we go. My first new bonsai for probably 10 years. I'm reasonably pleased with that. I will now do the traditional before and after that bonsai videos always have. So we will have our bush next to our tree.